Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we are having a look at the Mk3 Expansion mod, which is being made by forum user Suicidal Insanity. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is a pretty decent selection of parts to fit the Mk3 fuselage. And this is one of those mods I could have sworn I did a video of ages ago, and apparently I did do Suicidal Insanity's Mark II expansion, but I never got around to looking at the Mark III, so here we are. So let us jump right on into the spaceplane hangar and have a look at what all this does add in. So let's grab ourselves the sort of typical Mark III cockpit for comparison, and then of course turn on our mod filters to just have the Mark III expansion parts. And to start with, we have a couple of fun things here in command, the first being a Mark III drone core, which of course is an unmanned command pod, has a data transmitter, reaction wheel, SAS, and electric charge of 400, and of course fits nicely into the Mark III fuselage as well. I guess all these parts would, considering the name. But yes, very nice modeling to it, a very good little part, and always useful to have a drone core in said size. So the next we have is the Mark III inline command bridge, and this is a very fun little cockpit. Unfortunately, does not have an internal view. The next two cockpits do have an internal view, but this one is lacking at the moment. But for the time being, it is of course a command pod that can hold up to 3 Kerbals, minimum of 1, a typical data transmitter, reaction wheel, crew report, electric charge of 45, and monopropellant of 80. The next one we have is the Mark III-2 cockpit, which, if we pop up to the front, very fun, very nice and streamlined design, very cool, and is, of course, able to carry 4 Kerbals, 1 minimum, with the some built-in RCS, which is always nice, reaction wheel, crew report, electric charge of 300, and monopropellant of 150. And overall, I think the coolest of the interiors that we do have. Very, very fun. And then the last one is the PPD-27XL cupola, which, boy, if we take this one off and put it here, this one also does have an interior, and it's actually pretty impressive when inside. But yeah, it's just a giant cupola, and it does hold 3 Kerbals, minimum 1, data transmitter, reaction wheel, crew report, 500 electric charge, and 100 monopropellant. Very cool, and actually, because of just the gorgeous view you get of space from this thing, I think it's my favorite of these cockpits. A very awesome thing. So let's drop all of those off and then go into the fuel tanks category, where we've got some fun options. The first is a Mark III to Mark I adapter, so you can always change whatever you are doing with your plane. So that is very nice there, and of course holds 720 liquid fuel and 880 oxidizer. The next is a Mark III bicoupler holding 1620 liquid fuel and 1980 oxidizer, and very nice. You can fit 2 very large engines on the back, or of course separate it into other things, I don't know, fuel tanks, whatever your mind could think of. Very fun little piece. The next one we have here is the Mark III quadcoupler with 360 liquid fuel, 450 oxidizer. Very good, goes down to the 1.25 engine size, so nice for throwing on whatever you need 4 of. Very cool. The next bit is a Mark III saddle tank cap. So this goes on the exterior, as you can see here, and does fit quite nicely on the flat bit of the Mark III, as you can see, very nicely in line. And it holds a 45 liquid fuel and 55 oxidizer. Now we then have a number of long tanks, well, 2 long tanks here for the saddle tank, and we have a long version of it, and a short saddle tank. Let's just pop that up there. And both of these are quite interesting because they will hold, you know, a lot of stuff, but they're variable tanks depending on what you choose. Right now, both of these are structural, but we can change them to liquid fuel holding 400 for the short tank, or 800 for the long tank, or we could go to liquid fuel and oxidizer being 360 liquid fuel, 440 oxidizer for the long tank, and 180 liquid fuel, 220 on the oxidizer for the short tank, and then finally monopropellant at 400 for the short tank, or 800 for the long tank. And of course it does change the textures there. Very fun to have, and of course goes quite nicely on the edge of the or connects to the Mark III saddle tank caps, so you can put them along the side of your vessel and you know, make some nice looking ships as long as you actually attach them properly, unlike me. And then we have a Mark III short truncated saddle tank, which is an interesting one. So it basically is, well, a bit more than half. It's almost 3/4 of a regular saddle tank here, but like the others, it can change. Now it holds 135 liquid fuel and 165 oxidizer, and if we change it, it doesn't change fuel size, but what it does is change shape. So we can go from that flat one to an adapter size, so it would then go from this truncated section to a normal saddle tank. And then, of course, an adapter on the other side to do the same thing. So you could then attach one of the normal ones over here, etc., to get whatever design you are looking for. Very fun. The next thing we have here is a Mark III to Mark II inverter, which holds 900 liquid fuel and 1,100 oxidizer, and does have a mesh switch, so it could go from a vertical to a horizontal sort of mesh thing here, which is quite interesting for, again, changing the design to whatever you desire. Very fun. And the next piece we have is a tri-coupler, so similar to the quad coupler up here, but this time, of course, only holding 3. There we are. And that one holds 360 liquid fuel, 450 oxidizer. And then, of course, we have another style of tri-coupler. As of course, I actually probably should have pointed this one out. It is a tri-coupler, but it's a Mark II tri-coupler. So it then switches over to the Mark II fuselage, which is interesting, whereas this tri-coupler here, which holds 360 liquid fuel, 450 oxidizer, just goes to the 1.25 size. There we are. And finally in here we have a shoulder mount, which is just another sort of side tank that you can add on and holds 360 monopropellant. So that is fuel tanks onto engines. Oh boy, we're 7 minutes in. I should probably try to hurry up a bit. The first one we have is the AT-80 Hades nuclear rocket, and I like this thing. It is beautiful, with a maximum thrust in space of 400 kilonewtons, and of course max ISP of 830 in a vacuum. It is a pretty awesome, gigantic, and very nice looking engine, beautifully modeled. The next one we have is the Cleaver engine, which is, there we go, can switch from the liquid fuel and oxidizer to liquid fuel and air intake, and when under oxidizer has a max thrust of 1,100 kilonewtons, and under the air intake it does 840. Did I say air intake up here or oxidizer? Well, 1,100 oxidizer kilonewtons of thrust, 840 for the air intake. There we go, and let's grab it. Perfect, just a supersized Rapier engine. Very awesome thing. Now next we have is the Cyclone. Just pop that baby on there. Very cool looking engine. And this one has a max thrust of 2,750 kilonewtons and max ISP of 340 in vacuum. And, well, yeah, just a very sweet looking engine. Very cool design to it. Next one we have is the Hurricane, a turboprop engine if you want to make things spin. And that will have a max thrust of 314 kilonewtons with an engine ISP of 15,500. Wow, that's okay there. And of course, as you can see, has its own built-in air intakes, which is always useful. The next is the Wellington turbofan engine. We got a lot of things in here. Oh boy. boy. And this one has a maximum thrust of 883 kilonewtons at Mach 1.7, and with a engine ISP of 10,600. Very nice, wonderful thing. Of course, you know, you just got to get really fast to use it. The next is the Buffalo turbofan engine, which has a maximum thrust of 662 kilonewtons at Mach 1.7 with an ISP of 6,600, so of course a bit smaller there. Very nice though, very beautiful modeling on that one. Actually, beautiful modeling on all of these, frankly. The next engine we have is the Coxswain Orbital Maneuvering System. There we go. Let's actually get a little zoom in on that. Very cool thing, very nice looking, very good modeling as per usual, and it does, as you can see here, have a max thrust in vacuum of 120 and ISP in vacuum of 300. Does have some built-in RCS, and of course we have the mesh switch here, so we can go from shuttle to Buran, and well, that's your only two options there, but very nice to have. Always fun to have options. The next is the Slevert? I think that's how you say it. Atomic thermal jet. Oh boy, that's a big one. There we go. Oh yeah, that's a nice engine. With, of course, a max thrust of 701 kilonewtons at Mach 1.7 and ISP of 2,000. It's a pretty impressive little thing. And, of course, has the nuclear symbol on it, so always fun. We then have the Wyvern turbo ramjet. There we are, with 3 beautiful engines on it. That will do a maximum of 2,052 kilonewtons at Mach 3 with an ISP of 4,000. And, yeah, it's a pretty awesome engine. I do like the 3 looking design there. We then have the Atlas solid rocket booster. Boy, I do love that it's a solid rocket booster in the Mark III shape, and it has a maximum thrust and vacuum of 2,000 kilonewtons with an ISP and vacuum of 220. And there we go, gigantic engine. And last, the Fulcrum linear arrow spike, which has a maximum of 2,000 kilonewtons of thrust and vacuum, engine ISP max of 340, and overall, very, very nice engine. Very cool looking. So next is on to command and control. Ah, boy, we're at 12 minutes and we're only here. We have first a 5-way Mark III RCS block right there. Beautiful for your control. We then have a Mark III RCS chine cap. There we are, goes on to the side and, you know, fits in quite nicely with some of the other parts we have. We have an RCS chine segment, which of course is the same sort of shape and can go right behind there. Then an RCS saddleback, which goes with the saddleback tanks that we were looking at earlier. Very nice right there. And finally, a saddle tank RCS cap. So there we are. So instead of having just a fuel tank capping at the end, you can do it with RCS, an RCS system. Very fun. Let's get all of these off because they're taking up room. And then move down to structural, where we have 3 pieces. And honestly, even though we have all these cool engines, I kind of think these 2 are my favorite, because we have a Mark III T-junction, so we can now build space stations far more easily with Mark III sections. And we also have an X-junction, which is of course just a 4-way separator. So you can just build gigantic bases or satellites, or not satellites, but space stations now far, far more easily with the Mark III than ever before. And that is fun. We also have a Mark III saddle tank adapter, which will go on the side of the ship, fit with the saddle tank, and then it has a attachment point there, so you can, you know, do whatever you want with. But yeah, I honestly think that these junction tanks are my favorite, because I've always wanted to really build with some of the Mark III fuselage parts for space stations, but it was always kind of weird looking. Now we have junctions to do it properly. Perfect. And we have in coupling a couple of things. We have a stack decoupler, always useful. We also have a Clampotron inline docking port, which if we do open up, there we go. We can nicely dock with anything. And we also have a shielded docking port, which if we open up, there we are. You can dock to your heart's content with either of those 2. And of course, decouple things. Always good. We have in payload a service bay, and you know me, I always like service bays, especially the, you know, just all the fun stuff you can do inside of them. And as you can see, it also holds 300 monopropellant and 4,000, yes, 4,000 electric charge. For a second, I thought that said 400. No, 4,000. Then in aerodynamics, we have a variety of things. Now, remember those chine caps that we had back in RCS? Well, here's where you get the rest of those in here. And they are, of course, aerodynamic parts. You have them in cap, you have them in long, and, of course, in the short variety that I wanted to show off first. We then also have here a Mark III hypersonic nose cone. So, you know, if you really want to go fast, there you go. Make yourself nice and aerodynamic. We also have a just normal Mark III nose cap. There we are. Not quite as aerodynamic, but, you know, it'll do. We then have a saddle tank intake, so if you have those saddle tanks going along the side, you can get air intake there. We also have a Mark III shock cone air intake, which again is just gigantic. And remember those T-junctions? So you could build like one of the four-way junctions there, then a three-way junction here, and have like these giant air intakes along the side of your plane. And that would be awesome. And then, of course, we have the Mark III subsonic intake right there. Lovely. Do love the animation on that. And what looks like a crew hatch. Because that's safe. And now I skipped all these up here because they're basically just large copies of the already aerodynamic parts that we have. The various wing designs here, the big S, etc., that are just larger big S versions of these various wing segments. Same with all of these here. So you can still use them just like normal, and they're just like the normal ones we have in stock, just bigger. And same for the Elevons here. We just have much larger versions of them than you've ever had before because, well, Mark III fuselages are ginormous. So there we go. Let's pop off all of those. Now we have nothing in landing gear, nothing in thermal, electric communication, or so. No, we do have science. Oh, almost passed that one. We have a mobile processing lab. There we go. So all your scientific needs can fit 6 Kerbals on the inside, and of course is, well, just gigantic science lab. And then finally in utility we have a saddle tank that holds crew. Wait, hold on. There we go. So instead of fuel or structural, you could actually go with crew along the side of your ship. It does use the, oh my god, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the Mark I fuselage, is that it? Is that it? The passenger tank for that, for the small space plane. Why am I forgetting the name of that part now? But it uses that specific interior that holds the 2 crew members. And yeah, that is it for the parts. So let us take a look at a monstrosity of a space plane that I built earlier with these things, because I was screwing around just trying to see what sort of weird things I could build. And this is it. It is a weird, stubby little plane that, I was actually able to take off earlier, which is interesting. But yes, we have the various cockpits on here, as well as in here is hidden some of those cruise saddle tanks. And then, of course, just all the gigantic pieces we need for a very weird, stumpy plane. And we are, of course, using the Cleaver engine with, you know, having the nice, oxidizer intake at the moment. And yeah, so let's take this thing off and of course also look at the interior views. So let us go to launch on the runway. And yeah, there is just a huge amount of possibilities of things that you could make with all of these pieces. We've got a lot of cool parts here. So let's take a look at Jebediah, who is currently in the cupola module. Now again, unfortunately, this command pod doesn't have a internal view yet. We do have one over here though. So we'll start with Jebediah in the cupola, and isn't that just beautiful. I mean, it's a little bit low res, honestly, if I'm, going to be frank, but you just have such a gigantic field of view from this thing. It would make an awesome cupola on a Mark III fuselage-style space station, and that is a good thing. And of course, we have 2 other crew members in here in a little walkway with our various exit points to get where we need to go. And again, just that beautiful, gigantic view. Ah, yeah, that's good. Then we have... Oh, I forgot to put more people in this thing. Didn't I do that a couple of episodes ago? I forgot to, of course, hit fill. Here we go. Now we launch and go look at the rest of the tanks instead of just the beautiful cupola. I mean, I know I love the cupola, but, I mean, come on, we got another part to look at. So there we go, back to the cupola. 1, 2, 3. We are moving. I forgot to put on the brake. Meh. So yeah, here are the saddle tanks over on the side with the 2 crew members, so you can see what you're getting there and watch the ground move. Yeah, I really should put on the brake. Oh well. And here is that elongated hypersonic cockpit with the 4 crew members inside. Isn't it awesome? It's like being on a proper bridge. And of course, we're looking behind us on this particular vessel because I built it weird. And yeah, it's just got nice little positions for each of the crew members. I do love this thing. Very beautiful. Very nice. And we're back to the cupola. So yes, that was the Mark 3-2 cockpit. But yeah, let's actually try and take this thing off and see if I can get it to fly again. I got it to fly for like a really short amount of time. Let's see if we can actually get it to go for a little longer. Granted, as you can see, it's even if we do get it in the air, it's not going to stay there for very long because of fuel, or well, lack thereof, really. Hey, we're in the air! Sort of. Oh, and we're rolling. We are rolling. But you know what? We're also technically flying, and I am okay with that. And we're out of fuel. There we go. But hey, technically it flew for a short ways. But yeah, that is the Mark III Expansion. An absolutely awesome set of parts that is, well, just frankly, I don't even know quite how to... Oh, that was a very big explosion. Very big explosion. But yeah, honestly, I don't even quite know how to put into words just how awesome this pack is. It has a huge selection of various parts that you could use to build space planes, rockets with space stations, bases, rovers, etc. Just whatever your imagination could come up with, you could probably do it. And now with the Mark III, which means gigantic. And that is a wonderful thing. But yes, that is gonna be it for this episode. We do have some survivors, thankfully. Is that? That seems like it just landed on solid ground, but we are in fact on water. Interesting. I think the Mark III broke the physics of the game. But yes, if you'd like to check out this mod pack for yourself, and I would definitely say to go and do so, you can have a look at the link in the description as usual. But that is going to be it for today. I hope you all have enjoyed, my friends. And of course, you do come back for the next one. Hopefully, we'll be looking at yet another wonderful mod. But until that time, thank you for watching. And as always, have a good one.